Hi guys, Christ is risen. So you remember a couple weeks ago now, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, I kept saying, I think I have to go to court, I have to go to court, and this court date kept getting canceled and moved back, and, yada, yada, yada. Well, I was looking through my channel today, and I realized I never gave any update on that whole situation. So if you're just joining me midstream, I was supposed to give character testimony. And then the case kept getting paused and moved, and the judge, decided he didn't want to do it, and it was a huge disaster. And thank goodness I was on the periphery of it. It was slightly inconvenient in terms of my schedule, but nothing compared to what the defendant must be going through. It was an awful situation. Very disrespectful of everyone's time involved. Anyway, so the big news is, I have no big news, because they didn't get the proper paperwork in time, so after sitting in the courthouse for 2 hours, the attorneys came out and, told the defendant that he had to come back in 2 weeks. Ridiculous. So I'm assuming I'll be going back. I don't even know anymore. I just roll with the punches. I go with the flow. At least it was a nice day out, so I got a couple-mile walk out of it. Anyway, rather than give you that silly little minute-and-a-half video, I thought, okay, I'm going to take an opportunity to answer another question that I got. This is a common question, and it's, what's the creepiest thing that you've seen? Who is the creepiest person that you've met in prison? Is it an inmate? Is it a guard? Like, what have you, And whenever somebody asks me this, I mean, I could give you many examples, but there's one that just always leaps to the forefront of my mind. And I think part of the reason that it was so horrifying to me and had such a deep impact on me was because when I encountered this individual, I was really new at this. I think he was in the first group I ever attended in the prison. So, if not the first, definitely the second. And he, well, I'll start from the beginning. Okay, so, normally I see these guys once a week. About 5 years ago, the sentencing rules at this jail were a little bit different. So you had guys who were sentenced already and guys who were awaiting trial. So you could stay at the county jail if your sentence was under a certain time period. I think it was if it was under 2 years or 3 years. Now it's down to 1, but at the time it was 2 or 3. So you had a lot of guys who you developed a rapport with them because, you know someone for several years. That tends to happen. And so this gentleman, he had apparently been arrested about 4 or 5 months before I entered the system. He was about 60, short, slight, neatly put together, respectful, always came to church. I don't think he ever missed a week. He was one of those people where I would just sit there and go, why is he here? And of course I'm not going to go up and ask him, but what's the deal? I thought after the first month maybe that he would get out, but no, he's coming, and then I'm like, oh my goodness, it's been a year, this guy is still here. I have to have information on this. It's going to eat me alive. And none of our other volunteers knew anything either, so we were all kind of wondering this. Now, just to give you an idea of how trustable this guy appeared, this inmate. He would do things like, if I was playing the piano, there's an electronic piano in the back of the room. If I was playing the piano, he would come over and we'd sing like Christmas carols together in harmony. Or we would be doing the readings for the day and he would read one of the, the responsorial psalm or whatever. So he was helping us out. I mean, it was really almost as if he didn't belong in a yellow jumpsuit, So I tried to get his name from the sign-in sheet so I could go and look him up on the internet. Because in our state, if you know someone's name, you don't even have to know their whole name. If you know partially, and any one of a number of other criteria. So if you know their arresting county, or if you know the case number, or if you know another participant in the case, if you can search this database, it's free in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I put him in, and I couldn't find his case anywhere. I didn't see anyone with that name at all. Turns out I was spelling it wrong, but I didn't know that. Fast forward about 14 months in, all of a sudden, let's call him Bob. That's not his name, but I'm going to call him Bob because I don't like to make it obvious, just in case. So one day I show up at the prison, no Bob. And I'm like, oh, maybe he finally got out. And then the next week, no Bob. And I thought, great. All right, well, as much as I'm going to miss him, I hope that, he's out and never gets in trouble again, Then he started coming back again. But something was different about him. There was a darkness in his face. I don't know how to explain this to you in words. It wasn't that his skin color changed, but there was a darkness in his eyes. That's the only way I know how to describe it. A darkness and just kind of reptilian. I got this sense of like repugnance. And he stopped sitting in the front of the room. He started sitting kind of like off to the side and kind of moving toward the back. And that was extremely uncharacteristic of him. He was always front and center, So he comes in, and this goes on for a couple weeks where he's coming to church again, but there's something clearly going on with him. And now this is not completely abnormal in a prison situation because you got people who have court dates coming up. They're very scared. They're nervous. Maybe they've just been sentenced. They're really upset about it. Or, their spouse is leaving them and they got served with divorce papers while they're in jail. I mean, could you imagine? Horrible. So I figured, all right, well, this stinks, but I don't want to go over and pry. So we'll just watch and see what happens. Now, this happened for about 6 weeks where he would come in every week. And progressively, he just looked more and more wrong. That's the only word I know how to describe it. He looked wrong. There was something in there that I had not seen before. And it wasn't human as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it was chilling. Ugh. I even kind of feel weird talking about it because it was just, ugh. And here's another weird thing. You ready for this? When I met this guy, he had white hair. Totally white. And his hair stayed white, of course, until his countenance started to change. And at that point, his hair started to get darker. So every week, his hair would get more and more, and, progressively less white and more like medium to dark gray. I've never seen this happen. I mean, it was, I can't explain it. Okay. So we've got this weirdness going on. Then all of a sudden, he's gone again. And after a couple weeks, I guess it was probably 2 weeks, one of us said something about it to the room in general. I think we were like, dude, does anyone know, is he okay? Like, can you just tell me if he got released? Or did, I don't mean to pry into the guy's case, but what's the deal? And so after church, one of the guys came up and said, actually, he's still here. He's on suicide watch right now because he just got sentenced and he's very unhappy about the sentence that he got. Okay. He said he got 25 to 50. And me being like the most naive person, I was like, months? No. 25 to 50 years. So I thought, okay, he must have killed someone. That's the only thing I could think. He must have killed someone. Oh my goodness, this is awful. That night, I went home and I was trying alternative spellings of his last name because he had this great big long complicated last name, and I had a feeling that maybe that's what my problem was. That's why I couldn't find him in the court database, and that's exactly what the problem was. So I spelled it the right way, and I know it's this guy because I was also able to Google it, and his picture was everywhere, so I am 100% sure this is the dude, okay? He got 25 to 50. You know what he did? He, over a period of several years, raped his stepdaughter. Like, constantly. She was like 10 or 11. I mean, horrible, evil stuff. And it went beyond that, too. I mean, as if that's not bad enough. He started forcing her to watch when he would, like, have relations with a sliced mango. Yeah, and then there was a stuffed animal, a stuffed shark. He cut off part of the tail and made it into a device and had relations with that and made her I mean, just disgusting. Ugh. Oh, yuck. So, all of a sudden, I read all that and I went, okay, well, now I understand why he got that sentence. That's awful. Thank God that he is no longer, out with children. Thank God. Literally, thank God. So, that night my husband comes home from work and I was sitting, on the bed with the laptop and I'm just kind of like shell-shocked about this. And I told him, I was like, you're not going to believe this, but I have to tell someone because I feel like I'm about to explode. So, check this action out. And what I kept saying was, of all the people, I mean, not only can I not conceive of committing a crime like that ever, especially over years, but of all the people in that room every Wednesday night, he was the one person that I always thought without fail, he looks like he'd be a good neighbor. He looks like someone you could trust with your kids. So my husband just looks at me and he goes, of course he does. How do you think he got victims? And that is what it feels like, ladies and germs, to have ice water poured down your neck. It was the most chilling realization I've ever had. It was just, it's just demonic. I mean, I'm running out of negative words here. Because he was right. Of course. They say serial killers, you usually can't tell them by the way they look. Ted Bundy, very handsome. Okay. This guy wasn't a killer. But it's the same deal where, of course, he looked approachable. Of course, he looked kid-friendly. Of course, right? So, he definitely takes the creepy cake. It's just so far beyond my realm of experience, And looking back on it now, I mean, even now that I have much more experience interacting with incarcerated individuals than I did at the time, I still don't know if I would have picked up on anything wrong. And by the way, I have a lot of knowledge and experience and training in detecting deception in speech and in interviews. And he just flew right under my radar. I mean, you could have knocked me over with a feather. So, that's usually the case, isn't it? The people that you just don't think. So anyway, he is old enough that he is never going to get out of prison. Because I doubt, especially that as a child rapist, he's going to live for 25 years in prison. I'm not gloating over that, by the way. I'm just saying. He's probably going to die in prison. His choice, kind of, when you think about it. Anyway. So, I don't know if I hope this was entertaining, per se, but I do think it is an interesting, it's an interesting topic. You definitely meet a lot of interesting people this way. So, anyway. It's glorious outside, so I'm going to get back to my gardening, and I will see you guys in the next clip. And thank you so much for watching and commenting and, sharing the videos, subscribing, pressing the like button. It's helping a lot. So thank you so much, and please pray for me. I'll pray for you. Okay. God bless you. Goodbye.